Hello, this is Steven now, and yes, we're back with another Green Hornet 66 episode review. Today, we'll be reviewing the episode Beautiful Dreamer Part 2, the second part in the series' first ever two-parter. Without any further ado, let's get back into the video. We begin this episode, well, basically to recap on the previous one, Casey was used as a pawn recently under brainwash to essentially murder Britt Reed. After Britt Reed essentially preventing her from killing him, the Green Hornet and Kato prepared to go out and essentially interrogate the Vale of Eden, using, of course, the Green Hornet persona in order to achieve this. As they drive in the Black Beauty, they end up pulling over Eden in his car and essentially interrogate him about his operation. Eventually, after a while, Green Hornet, I should say, essentially threatens to do him harm unless he is cut in on the operation, and after a while, Eden decides to go along with it, obviously to backstab him later. But then we then go back to Ian back at his spa, where he's essentially planning how he's going to double-cross the Green Hornet by placing a special bomb within a handbag and gives it to one of the patrons. This patron was also in the first episode that was involved in the jewelry robbery. Essentially, the bomb is planned to kill Britt Reed, Kato, and the entire Black Beauty, getting rid of one problem. And it's clear that, obviously, Eden had set up a false trap for the Hornet, saying how they were going to essentially do a robbery. However, he does plan to do another big robbery, but that will play into something later in the episode. Green Hornet and Kato, of course, waiting outside for this robbery to take place, but then see the girl come over. The Green Hornet lets her in the car, and the woman, clearly under the subliminal messaging that, of course, Eden had given her, essentially tells him about how the robbery is being postponed and is not being done. But Green Hornet is concerned what's going on, but also sees how the woman is also holding a handbag intensely. Clearly sensing something's wrong, struggles with her to get the handbag out from under her hand, looks through the handbag and throws it up in the air, causing an explosion. The woman is frantic about what's happened, the Green Hornet clearly trying to comfort her. He then tells Kato to drive to the Vale of Eden, where they plan to make Peter Eden a visit. Peter Eden is, of course, laying out, enjoying his wealth, and also watching the news of how the bomb went off. Clearly happy about what happened and toasting himself to his victory. Just as that happened, he turns around and sees the Green Hornet and Kato there, being held at gunpoint, well, in this case, gas gunpoint by the Green Hornet. He then knocks him out with the gas gun, which we haven't honestly seen him use in a while, and he then ties him up into his own machine that he uses to subliminal message to many of his patients. The Green Hornet plans to use this to reveal his big caper. After that, after the subliminal messaging and after the whole thing, Eden wakes up and treats the Green Hornet and Kato like friends. He then, of course, tells them like how they're going and how the guys are back from the big job yet, saying that no, they haven't, and he reveals that, well, it is a long way from the racetrack. They then ask what you're talking about, and he says, don't you remember? We plan to roll up on the racetrack tonight. Haven't you guys forgotten? Green Hornet says, sure, maybe we have forgotten, and Kato ends up knocking him out. And if you're confused, well, basically, in the first part, when Britt Reed met one of the many patrons, one of them happened to work at the racetrack and is a frequent member of the Vale of Eden. We then cut back to the racetrack, where men disguised as security guards, not really security guards, of course, come to collect the money shipment. They then hand a card that's blank to the man, and the man pretty much says how, yes, this is him, this is them, hand the money over, clearly under subliminal messaging courtesy of Eden. The men leave in the armored car, the same one that was used to kill the professor in the previous episode, very early, are leaving. But the Black Beauty happens to arrive and a chase ensues. And honestly, the chase is okay. It's fun. I find it interesting they're doing it at a race course because, ironically, in the Batman 3rd season, one of the Penguin schemes was at a race course. I wonder if that was somehow reason why it was done there. I don't know. You never know. The chase ends with the Black Beauty being cornered by the armored truck, prepared to ram him. But the Green Hornet is struggling to press any buttons to prevent them from being run over. Eventually, after pressing one of the buttons, it eventually starts working and fires rockets at the armored truck, essentially causing it to catch on fire, explode, destroying the money within inside the truck, but also killing the guards. Realizing there's nothing left to do, they drive off. We end the episode at Britt Reed's office at the Daily Sentinel, where the woman before in the episode, that was being used to plant the bomb to explode in the Black Beauty, is having her photo taken to be part of the latest issue in the newspaper. They then just begin to discuss of what has happened. Basically, Eden has confessed to everything and is being sent off to prison, and the girl reveals that maybe the Green Hornet may actually be a hero, and they start the conversation about that before her and Britt Reed go off on essentially a date. Axford asks Casey if it could be possible, but she says it's probably not. And we end the episode there. I noticed in this two-parter, Axford has had less of a role this time around, and Bailey Scanlon is barely here within the episode. Casey's little remark at the end is fine. Again, want to see more Bruce Lee as Kato, but you get what you get. And Williams is, again, great, and honestly, when it comes to the Green Hornet portrayals, he's the one that comes to mind every time I see the show. Peter Eden here is definitely a unique criminal. I like how he got his comeuppance, and the way he was, how his own device was used on him for him to be taken away is poetic, and it kind of reminds me of the Batman 66 TV show when that would happen to a lot of the people on that, criminals on that show. It was very fun and enjoyable. I don't think how he could honestly be brought back because he's really not that really colorful as some other criminals, and he was good for this two-part, I will admit, and he was fun while we had him. Beautiful Dreamer Part 2 is definitely more action-packed of the two-parter, and I can get some enjoyment out of it. I really wish, however, there's really not much in character development or anywhere it really goes, but I will admit, it wraps up what was done in the previous first-parter. It's a fun second part to this installment, and I do take comfort in knowing we have another two-parter later down, or another few more two-parters later down in the series, but we'll review those when we get to it. There we have it, that was Beautiful Dreamer Part 2. Join us next time in the next Green Hornet 66 episode, but until then, this has been the Steven Hour, and ladies and gentlemen, so long for now.